Once upon a time, in a serene village deep within the heart of Africa, where the trees whispered ancient secrets and the rivers sang melodies of ages long gone, lived a man named John. He was known as one of the most hard-working and kind-hearted men in the village of Adifure. After years of labor, he had earned the love and respect of his fellow villagers and had built a modest but beautiful home for his family. John had a gentle wife, Mareo, and two daughters, Aduk and Temi, who were the joy of his life. Mareo was a woman of unparalleled beauty and kindness, and her daughters inherited not only her looks but also her compassionate spirit. Aduk, the eldest, was 16 and known for her nurturing heart. She often helped the elderly women in the village with their chores and never asked for anything in return. Temi, the younger, was 12, full of life and curiosity, with a sharp mind that always sought answers. The three of them were inseparable, a bond so strong that even the villagers marveled at their unity. But as with all great happiness, their peaceful life was soon to face a shattering blow. One ill-fated evening, Mareo fell gravely ill. Her sickness, sudden and merciless, sapped the life out of her day by day. Despite John's best efforts to seek healers and remedies, nothing could save his beloved wife. After weeks of suffering, Mareo passed away, leaving John and the two daughters in a pit of grief so deep, it felt as though the sun had set on their world forever. For months, the house once filled with laughter was now a place of silence. John tried to keep strong for his daughters, but the sorrow weighed on him heavily. The village elders advised him to remarry, saying, "A house without a woman is like a river without water." Though John hesitated, fearing no one could ever replace Mareo, he eventually decided to find a new wife, hoping it would restore some normalcy for Aduk and Temi. It was not long before he met Saad, a widow from a neighboring village. She was beautiful and graceful, but behind her delicate smile hid a heart as cold as stone. The villagers whispered about her, saying she had treated her late husband harshly, but John, blinded by his loneliness, ignored the rumors. Saad moved into John's home as his new wife, and at first she seemed kind enough to the girls. But it wasn't long before her true nature revealed itself. At first, Saad pretended to be a loving stepmother. She spoke sweetly to Aduk and Temi, even bringing them small gifts from the market and brushing their hair in the evenings. But over time, her demeanor began to change. Saad, who once smiled at them, began to scowl whenever John was not around. The two girls, still grieving their mother, noticed the coldness in her eyes but were too young to understand why. Soon, Saada's cruelty became apparent. She would find fault in everything Aduk and Temi did. If they cleaned the house, she would accuse them of doing it poorly. If they cooked, she would throw the food away, claiming it was tasteless. She would send them to fetch water from the river in the heat of the day, making them carry heavy loads while she rested in the shade. Temi, still young, cried often at the harsh treatment, but Aduk, being older, tried to shield her little sister as much as she could. "We must endure this for Papa's sake," Aduk would whisper to Temi, wiping her tears. "He has already lost so much. We cannot make him suffer more." The two sisters leaned on each other, their bond growing stronger with every act of cruelty they endured. John was blind to Saada's evil ways, for whenever he was around, she pretended to be the perfect wife and stepmother. She cooked his favorite meals, greeted him with a warm smile, and spoke lovingly to the girls in his presence. John, believing that Saad was helping his daughters move past their grief, was grateful and did not see the torment she inflicted behind closed doors. Saad, emboldened by John's trust in her, became more vicious when he wasn't around. She started denying the girls food, telling them they could only eat after they had completed impossible tasks. She forced Aduk and Temi to scrub the floors until their hands were raw and blistered. She would laugh cruelly when Temi stumbled under the weight of the water pots she made her carry, and if Aduk tried to help, Saad would slap her across the face, leaving Aduk with bruises she had to hide from her father. Worst of all, Saad often reminded the girls that their mother was gone. "Your mother was weak," Saad would sneer. "That's why she died. If you don't obey me, you will end up like her." These words cut deeper than any physical pain, and the girls would cry silently in their room at night, clutching each other for comfort. But they dared not tell their father, for they feared Saada's wrath would only grow if she found out. One evening, John came home early from the fields. He entered the house quietly, hoping to surprise his family with gifts he had brought from the market. But as he approached the house, he heard Saada's voice raised in anger. Curiosity piqued, he quietly moved closer to the window and saw Saad holding a cane, threatening his daughters. Aduk stood protectively in front of Temi, her body shaking but her voice strong. "We have done nothing wrong, stepmother," Aduk said. "Please don't hurt us." Saada's eyes blazed with fury as she raised the cane, preparing to strike. But before she could, John burst through the door. "Saad, what are you doing?" he shouted, his voice filled with shock and disbelief. Saad, startled, dropped the cane and immediately began to cry, playing the victim. "Oh, my husband, these girls are so disobedient. I was only trying to discipline them for their own good." But John saw through her lies. For the first time, he saw the bruises on Aduk's face, the exhaustion in Temi's eyes, and the fear that clouded both their faces. His heart broke as he realized what had been happening under his own roof. "How could you do this?" John asked, his voice trembling with anger and sorrow. "I trusted you with my daughters. They have already lost their mother, and now you treat them like this?" Saad, realizing her facade had been shattered, dropped to her knees, begging for forgiveness. But John was beyond forgiveness. With tears in his eyes, he told Saad to leave his house and never return. After Saad left, John did everything he could to make up for the suffering his daughters had endured. He spent more time with them, listening to their stories and comforting them. Slowly the house began to heal. Though the pain of their mother's death still lingered, the absence of Saada's cruelty allowed Aduk and Temi to find peace again. But the scars, both emotional and physical, took time to fade. John, forever haunted by his blindness to his daughter's suffering, vowed to never let anyone harm them again. And though Aduk and Temi forgave him, they were forever changed by the pain they had endured at the hands of the wicked stepmother. As time passed, the girls often found themselves thinking of their mother. They would visit her grave, lay flowers, and whisper their hopes and dreams to the earth, believing somehow that Mareo could hear them. On one such visit, as the sun set over the village, casting a golden light over the fields, they felt a warmth envelop them, a presence so comforting, it could only be their mother's spirit, watching over them from the other side. And so, though their hearts had been broken, they found the strength to rebuild, carrying with them the memory of their mother's love and the bond they shared as sisters, which no wicked stepmother could ever destroy. What would you do if you were in Aduk and Temi's shoes? A wicked stepmother, a father blinded by love, and two sisters fighting to survive. This story is a chilling reminder that not all smiles are kind. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe for more powerful African folktales. Comment justice for Aduk and Temi if you believe no child should suffer in silence.